Coaches, welcome to the lab. I'm here with Coach Aaron Terry, defensive line coach. Actually, the hashtag DlineU, as we like to say. Iowa Western Community College coach. Thank you for coming on, and very excited to talk to you and then listen to your presentation a little bit.
Yeah, appreciate you having me.
This is awesome, man. So, Coach, take us. I know we talked a little off camera. You've been at Iowa Western for 10 years.
Yep.
Take us through your coaching journey, kind of where you got started and how you ended up, at a decade stint at Iowa Western.
Yeah, so I'm originally from Omaha. I come from Omaha family. My grandfather started one of the first youth little leagues in Omaha back in the 60s. I had two uncles that are college coaches. My Uncle Scott was a longtime defense coordinator at Northwest Missouri State. Coached for 17 years there, coached in 7 national championships, and then was promoted head coach. Unfortunately, 6 months in the job, he passed away, right? And so they brought my other uncle in, who's been down there ever since. And he's won 3 national championships as well. And so just having that family tie of everything. When I was done playing, I played under both my uncles down there. And then, I finished up. My first opportunity out of college was to coach high school, right? And so that's what kind of got my foot in the door. I did that for 2 years back in Omaha. And then I went to Nebraska Kearney to GA. And then I've been here ever since for 10 years, and so it's been a fun ride, and, really enjoy to be able to interact with the type of kids we get, and it's they're in and out 18 months. And so I really love it because, you get to impact a lot of kids in a short amount of time, and then, you're starting all over again.
And I know, you guys have had a lot of success, obviously national championships and, putting out a lot of NFL guys, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. But, obviously now, like with the way the rules are, and, guys can go to JUCO and not lose any eligibility. Like, so for you guys, what makes Iowa Western football special compared to other programs that kids might look at?
Well, I think it starts with our administration. First off, our president's all about athletics, all about football. They give us all the resources we need to not only have success, but give our guys the best experience, right? And so we have Division I facilities, indoor practice facility, state-of-the-art weight room, our own, $10 million football complex. So we have everything from that standpoint to give our guys what they need. And then, our community, we're located right outside of Omaha. We're in the metro area, where right over the bridge in Council Bluffs, Iowa. But I mean, we have a population of about 1 million people in the metro area, where most junior colleges are in a town of 1,000, 2,000 people, or small towns. And so I think that obviously gives us the perk, and our community here in Council Bluffs follow us, and we get a good showing and good support from the community.
That's awesome. And I think, like you said, for you guys, the community support, and I think in any football program, right, like administrative support,
absolutely,
is paramount, because administrative backs you, like everything else will follow. And obviously, you guys have had a great run. You've been there for 10 years, and I think that's commendable to your administration, obviously your coaching staff as well. So, talking about D-line,
yep.
I wanted to get those out of the way because I want to talk, defensive guy.
Absolutely.
We want to talk some defense. So when you're looking at alignment, right? So what are 3 top traits that you look for in a defensive lineman?
Yeah, well, I mean, first off, I always kind of look for how relentless is the kid, because I think when you see a kid playing hard, a kid running around, making plays on the perimeter downfield, that tells you, one, they care, right? And so when you have a kid with playing with some passion like that, those are the kids you want to coach, because, they're obviously wanting to learn, they're wanting to grow, and they're wanting to do whatever they can to be successful. But when it comes to, the physical side of it too, I always say there's 2 things that I look for is the explosive strength, and then the physical strength, right? Like a weight room type, and how does that carry over to the football field, right? And so when you see a guy with explosive strength, he may not be very strong in the weight room, but he's able to take his explosive hips and make some explosive plays on the field, right? Where he's getting knocked back, he's making plays in the backfield, and same with the physical strength too, where those guys are maybe not as explosive from a hip standpoint, but you can see when they strike with their hands, they're able to get knocked back and control their blocks, and then obviously get off and then make plays. And then, the third one is athletically, what type of movements do they have, right? Going vertically, can they explode in a 5-yard box? Can they move lateral? Have some athletic quickness within that 5-yard box too, where it's not just straight ahead, it's side to side. And when you can find those three things in a guy, you're looking at a player that can be end up turning into a pretty good football player.
So, and this actually, I think a pretty good question, because you've been at Iowa Western for a decade, is how have you seen defensive line play evolve in the 10 years that you've been there?
Yeah, well, I think it's obviously evolved even with the offenses, where back even when I played, in the early 2000s to now, it's D-line play, really defenses evolve with offenses, right? And so, I think early on in my coaching career, you were seeing a lot of times where teams were moving to the spread offense, and then now you're getting back to kind of the old school mentality of running the ball. But it's still kind of the spread looks where they're going 11 and 12, giving you 10 personnel formations, and it's evolved in a good way where it's not just straight smash mouth football, but you get your opportunities to play the run. And like I always tell our guys is, yes, we had 74 sacks last year, but I think it always starts with stopping the run. You got to earn the right to pass rush. And when you can eliminate the run game, then you obviously make a team one-dimensional. And that's what we try to emphasize here.
I think that's a great point. Cause I was talking with Kurt Warner the other day, and we were talking about the trends in the NFL and how, like 5-6 years ago, it was just wide open and passing, and now you look at that McVay tree, right, and how it's gone back to that 13 personnel type, and they're under center, play action, and things like that. So I think those are all great points. So for you, and it could be like evaluating film, it could be just watching a game on a Saturday or a Sunday. What separates a good pass rusher from an elite pass rusher for you?
Well, it's having a plan, right? I mean, I think there's always stuff that you see kids working moves and doing things, and that's the thing here is we've kind of built a system with it. But I mean, it's good pass rushers know what they're trying to do, right? And when you're able to rush with the plan, then when you have to go to your second move, right? Where a lot of times people are trying to go to their second move before their first move is even set up, right? And so I think those are the things as good pass rushers, they know how they're going to attack an offensive lineman, and then they have a plan of this is what I want to do. And if the offensive lineman takes it away, then I'm going to transition into my second move. And, and the best pass rushers I've had too, I think it's just instinctually what it is, where they naturally go from one move to their second move. And if, they get caught inside of a move, then they're able to transition into another position to get themselves, back in place to get a sack, and so, I think instincts and a rush plan are the two main ones that I see.
Those are all great points. And so it's like a two-part question. As a high school coach, now how does it work? So if you like, a high school kid and you're recruiting them, I guess for the high school coach and the high school players that are going to listen to this, obviously your reputation precedes you with what you guys have done.
Yep.
How does it work for them financially if they were to get recruited and ultimately, go to Iowa Western?
Yeah, I mean, we offer scholarships, and it all varies. We're kind of like the D2 model in the sense, but with on-campus living, housing, and tuition, it's only $12,000 a year to go to school here, which is really affordable, especially when you're talking about everything. Our meal plan is all you can eat from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. How
do I get on that, Coach?
Yeah, no doubt. And so and that's a big part of our development here, and that's the thing where, I always tell our guys, Jordan Vandenberg, who was drafted to the Bears, he came in here at 220 pounds and in a year was 285 pounds. Right. And so those are the things that it's affordable, and obviously there's, most kids come out of pocket a little bit, but the selling point's always on the back end as far as if you come here and do what you're supposed to do, your scholarship is going to be a full ride to the next level. If that's Division II, NAI, obviously Division I's full ride, but whatever level our guys are leaving and going to, they're getting their schooling paid for, right? So we always say, kind of come here, raise your stock, invest on the front end, and then on the back end, you're going to make your money.
I think that's a great point because I think that there's, obviously how college football has changed the last 5-7 years is that, you guys in your position understand that like, hey, I'm getting a guy for a year, possibly 2.
Yep.
They're going to go on. I'm going to develop them as best I can, just understanding that they're, and it's crazy to me. And again, like I'm obviously, a little older than you and just, and that's as a high school coach, that's an appreciation for me for what you guys do and the understanding of your role in that player's development. And speaking of development, what do you think are some common mistakes that a young defensive lineman makes to limit their development?
Well, I think it's them understanding what are their strengths and what are their weaknesses, where I think a lot of times kids they see, maybe some players in the NFL or see things that on social media and they think that's what they have to do to do the same thing. But every kid is different, and there's a different plan for everybody, but I think it always comes down to kind of physically, what can you do? And athletically, what can you do? And then trying to put a plan together that fits them, right? And those are the same thing for us, is we're not going to ask a kid to do something that they physically can't do, right, or athletically can't do. And so I think it's just them having an understanding of who they are, and that's a big part of our development here too. Is I try to get kids to understand like what you got to find an identity of who you are and who you want to be, right? And so you got to look at your strengths and your weaknesses, and then you got to use your strengths to your advantages, and then obviously with your weaknesses, you got to try to work on trying to make those better, because the better you get with your weaknesses, the higher your ceiling can be as a player.
That's awesome. So for you as a D-line coach, what drills do you for any D-line coach that's going to listen to this, what do you think are must-haves in an individual period?
Yeah, well, I mean, for me, we always do our hand progression every single day from a run standpoint, and like we kind of talked before, everything starts with stopping the run, because, if teams are able to run the ball, then why would they need to pass, right? And so I think it comes with using your hands, being able to control blocks, and then being able to get off blocks, right? And so those are the two things that we work every single day. If we're going to get any type of, we only had 10 minutes of Indy, that we're going to get our hand progression in, where we're working hand placement, hands, hips, and feet through that progression, and then obviously getting off the block, right? Because I think those are the most important part of D-line play. And for me, that same drill transitions into our pass rush when we're trying to bull rush and do that stuff, where the coaching points are the same, and so those are things that I do every single day. And then, I think there's a lot of coaches that do drills and do a lot of different drills, which is awesome. For me, I like to keep it simple in the way where, we're trying to teach these kids the proper fundamentals, right? And so the way to do that is get them to understand the details of the drill, right? And so if you can be consistent with your drill work as a coach, the players will be able to carry that over and start to understand how the drill works, what the details of the drills are, and those drills now will start to correlate to live actions, right? And then also with those drills, I think there's base fundamentals, and then you have to create some type of reactionary instincts within those drills too as you progress, because those are the things. Is if you're just doing the drill with no reactionary things with it, then you're not going to transition over to a live action period, right? And so I think it's always a progression where you're starting early on, step by step by step, teaching the fundamentals, teaching the drill, and then that drill should evolve into being able to be reactionary, where you have to react with your fundamentals and then make sure you're finishing in the right position.
Yeah, I think that, like you said, I think that the preparation for as much game like, whether it's reps or, in any type of situation, I think that those are all great points. In your opinion, how do you develop toughness and accountability within your defensive line room?
Yeah, well, I think it's just them understanding the standard, and I've been fortunate enough, I played in 4 national championships as a player. We've coached in the last 5 national championships here. And so I understand the habits of what it takes to be successful. And those are the things that I try to instill in our players, is that in order to be a champion, you got to become one first, right? And that's your daily habits, in the classroom, on the practice field, in the weight room, the things you do outside of football. And so it's just trying to make sure that everything's aligned in the right direction, that, the things that you're doing are correlating with your goals, right? Because if they're not, then you're not going to be consistent with the results you want, right? And so there's a structure that I have in place here that, it's really show up on time and give me your best effort, right? Those are kind of the two things that I really harp on. And if you do that, you're going to get the results you want, right? And so I think those are the things that I kind of harp on too, is if you're not, showing up, if you're not, doing the things you're supposed to be doing, then there's got to be some type of accountability with that, because that I'm not going to lower my standard of how we're going to do things here. And so, there's always different things that we do for that. But, I think that's huge in any type of leadership role, is if you want to achieve something, then you have to know how to do it. And then, there's steps in a process to get there. And if you understand the level of what it takes, then you need to hold your players, your team, your staff to that standard. Because once you allow them to lower that, then obviously you're not going to get the results you want.
That's all. Either you're coaching or you're allowing it, man. I love it. So last one before we get into your presentation. As a recruiting coordinator, what are the first things that you evaluate when you're watching a prospect's film? Because I think this is like, and again, you were a high school coach, so like everybody puts together. I mean, highlights are great, right? Like they're awesome. Sure. Like they're your best plays. So you're not going to put a play where you get into the backfield and you miss a tackle. So what are some things that you evaluate when watching a prospect that you guys are interested, or you get sent their film?
Yeah, well, I want to see what type of game-changing plays is he making, right? Is he the one that's, making a big touchdown throw? Is he the one making a big catch over the top of a DB? Is he making a play in the backfield? Like, those are the type of things is when it comes to recruiting is, you can't, teach some things, and those are the things you got to look for, right? His instincts, his explosiveness, those are the things that you want to look for on film. And obviously if they have those things, they're going to be creating a lot of explosive plays on the football field.
All right, Coach. Well, I know you said you got a little bit of a little presentation for us, so I'm looking forward to sitting back and learning some ball. This is a cheat code for me, because I do these podcasts and I get to learn offense and defense. So
no, absolutely. So I'll go through kind of I have a little PowerPoint of just kind of our base fundamentals of how we do things and kind of our standards and expectations. And then
I got the pen and paper. I'm ready to roll.
I'll get to some film kind of as we roll through that.
Yeah. Beautiful.
So here's kind of our base fundamental stuff of just structure of how I do everything on a daily basis here at Iowa Western. Kind of we talked about that, my resume of where I started and where I'm at now, and my success. I've had 51 defensive linemen play Division I since I've been here, 9 seasons. 23 went Power 4. I've had 20 All-Americans, 10 NFL guys. We have 5 NFL draft picks. Just currently had 3 this past NFL draft, and then we played in 5 straight championships, won 3 of the last 4 championships, and then this year we had a record-breaking 74 sacks. We've had 226 over the course of the last 4 years. Here's kind of the mindset, that and some of your questions kind of hit on some of this stuff too. But my philosophy as a coach is it's all about building a championship mindset. Where you're process driven, creating championship habits on a daily basis, and trying to be consistent with it, right? And so, I always say it's your attitude and effort, right? And so, showing up, every single day, no matter how you feel, no matter the situation, no matter the circumstance, and have high energy, right? When you're excited, you're passionate for the opportunity to improve, the opportunity to get better. Obviously you can go in and attack the principles of what you're trying to do that day at a high level. 4th and 1 effort, so I always bring this up to our guys is like, imagine it's 4th and 1, you're on the goal line, and this is for the national championship. What type of effort, what type of focus are you going to bring within that one play? And, I want to try to carry that over to everything that we do, so when you're tired, when you don't feel like it, hey, think it's 4th and 1 for the national championship, and let's bring that type of effort on a daily basis, right? And then embrace the grind. This is a thing where, it's never easy. There's always ups and downs, and there's, injuries, and there's setbacks, and there's a lot of things that happen, but embrace it, embrace the hard things that you have to do, because as you continue to work and push forward, once you overcome that stuff, it's going to make you a better person, and it's going to make you a better football player. And then accountability is huge, right? And it's about your actions and your choices, and that's where a lot of the results you end up getting are based off of the decisions you make, right? And so as you create those habits, hopefully we're creating them in the right way. And if you're not, then that's obviously where the accountability comes into play. As far as my D-line play goes, it's all based off of a fundamental foundation. We want to be consistent with our fundamentals of knowing how to play base blocks, reach blocks, certain pass sets, and just trying to make sure that we understand when we see a certain block or set, how are we going to attack it and react to it. Physical violence, it's a physical game, and I tell our guys all the time that, you're not always going to have perfect fundamentals, but if you're violent, that's going to make up for a lot of things, right? And so violence is a must. Stopping the run, this is, the things that we've talked about earlier as well, but, it's all about controlling the line of scrimmage and getting off blocks, right? And if you can consistently do that, you make teams one-dimensional, and then, you give yourself the right now to pass rush. And then affecting the passing game, right? And so, yes, everybody wants sacks, and that's important, but for me, it's about getting to the quarterback and getting him off his mark, right? So he's not able to set his feet and be able to make the passes he wants, get him uncomfortable. Obviously, if we're getting there and we're hitting them, that's what we want. And then, it makes it even better once you get the sacks as well, right? And then 5 to 6 plays max effort. When we're playing, we always have a lot of D linemen, depth from top to bottom. We got 9 guys that played last year that are moving on to the next level. And so this is where it comes into play, right? Where it's 5 to 6 plays. If you're still on the field, then we're going to rotate, get a new unit in there. And so I like this for a couple of reasons. One, as you go through the game, it keeps your guys fresh. So when you get into later in the game there, the third, the fourth quarter, our guys are now fresh, and they're able to kind of raise their level of play and take over later in games. And then, I think it's long-term development where it helps as well, right? Where, as those guys that are 2s and 3s are able to get some reps throughout the game, they start to build some confidence in the way that, the more reps you get, the more instincts and better you're going to get. So I just think in all, as you can create a lot of depth, and you can obviously, get your guys in a position to have success later in games. Our alignments, everyone has different ways of how they teach this stuff. Like I said, I've been taught different ways where, the outside shade of a tight end is a 9, he's a 10. I mean, there's a lot of different ways of how they went through it. I just made this as simple as I could, right? And so we keep it, hey, if you're head up on an O lineman, it's going to be an even number, 0 on the center, 2 on the guard, 4 on the tackle, 6 on the tight end. If you're shaded to the shoulder, it's a 1, 3, 5, and 7. And if you're inside shade, it's going to be a 2-eye, 4-eye, or 6-eye, right? And so these are the things that I've kind of simplified it in a way where kids can understand it, where the numbers aren't changing, and there's different scenarios and stuff like that. And so we've kept it pretty simple. We teach 2 types of fundamental techniques here. Attack players are guys that are going to be in true shade. So when they're in a 1, 3, 5, or 7, and then our react players are going to be in 2 eyes, 4 eyes, and 6 eyes. So here's our attack player, right? And so, we tell these guys when you're shaded, you become an attack player. So you're always going to attack your visual key in this situation here, right? And so when we're looking at blocks 2, you're going to get some type of base reach or hinge where, you're going to attack. Obviously, the old lineman in those situations, if you get any type of block away where it's a down or a pull, we're obviously still going to go and attack. But once they go away from us, then we'll shuffle squeeze on those type of things. If you're an interior guy as a 3 technique and you get some type of pull, then you're going to get your hands back to wherever that pressure is going to come from. We don't chase pullers around here. We get our hands and get over the top of blockers or down blocks. But if you get a down block as a 3 tech, you're going to chase that visual key. You're not going to get your hands back in that situation. But when you become a react player now, right, this is where, you know, our 2 eyes and 4 eyes are different than maybe some other people. We always put our inside hand down, and so we're always going to read the inside guy here. Most of our defense is based off of 4 eyes and 2 eyes. But when we get to this, now we become a react player, right? So we're going to read that center. If the center bases or reaches me, I'm going to attack. If he steps away, I'm going to get my hands back to the guard, right? And so this is a thing for me. I like this just because, you know, if we're attacking that center every single time, well, that guard is going to start to wash us out, and that's where a lot of the cutbacks and stuff happen, where, you know, we play Husker front, where we play with a lot of two eyes, and so we want to try to control the line of scrimmage and control the interior gaps where gaps aren't expanded, and we try to eliminate the vertical run game with what we do there, right? And then, you know, obviously if he pulls, then you're going to get your hands to the pressure key, right? And so if the center pulls out, we're going to hands to the guard. If that's the guard and he pulls back across the formation, it's kind of the same situation. We'll get our hands to that center, and we work over the top of all that stuff. You know, I'm a firm believer in doing that, because when you get pulls and gap scheme, you're not designed to make that play and, you know, chasing it from behind, right? And so the only time that you're going to give yourself a chance is getting over the top. And also when you're chasing it from behind, you know, you're going to create some seams for cutbacks to happen, right? So if you know, say the center is coming back with the guard pulling across the formation, if I go and chase that, well, that opposite A gap now is going to start to expand, right? And so what we teach is everyone's going to exchange gaps now, right? And so what should be happening is the play side tackle should be working over the top of his down block or double team. Our nose will be working over the top of the center's down block, and then our backside end, once he gets that hinge block, we'll be working over the top of that. So we have 3 guys all kind of working in the same direction of just getting over the top of those pullers. Our run progression here. And so this is how we teach everything, right? And we started off with, you know, our run progression against a base block, our run progression against a reach block, our run progression against a down block, right? And so it's really teaching our kids the fundamentals of how to specifically beat a certain block, or when we get in the past of a certain set, right? And so this is the base fundamentals, and these are kind of the coaching points that we make on film when we're watching, you know, in meetings and stuff like that. Hey, look at your get off here, it's low, or look at your hands, they're down. And so this is a good correlation for our guys to understand when they need to work on something, you can kind of be specific with it, right? And so, you know, when they go into practice the next day, they know, like, hey, you know, my steps weren't really good in the run game, especially against base blocks or reach blocks. And so those are the things that I'm going to be focusing on the day going into practice. And so, you know, it kind of helps those guys understand every day what they need to improve on once they take those notes in meetings, right? But the run progression always starts with our pre-snap stuff, right? And so alignment is always number 1, and stance. You know, you got to have a proper stance when we're talking about our run stuff. And then our post-snap goes get off with your eyes, steps, hands, hips, and then our disengage. So when it comes to our run stuff, so more specifically too, with it, like we dictate everything for our players, right? Like I think there's obviously times where, you know, we teach kids like, hey, you got to be, you know, understand situations and stuff like that, where we try to make the call dictate the situation, right? And so when we know it's a pass situation, then we're going to get into a kind of a pass call where our guys are going to change their alignments and stuff like that. And then when it's run or 50-50, we're obviously going to probably play run first in a lot of those situations. We're going to make more run calls, right? And so our run calls are correlations to our run progression, right? So it goes back and forth where they know what fundamentals they should be using based off the call, right? And so, you know, I would say align for success. So when we have our run calls, I purposely always back our guys a yard off the ball, right? And so this does, you know, 2 things. 1, I do it because it helps get our steps on the ground, but 2, especially early on when you have guys that maybe haven't had a lot of reps, or, you know, maybe they don't have the instincts to be able to react to blocks as much, is backing them off the ball. So that helps them read their key and then they're going to be able to react a little bit faster. And then as they get better with their steps, when they get better with reading and reacting, you can always move those guys back up. But the other thing too is it really helps with transition pass rush, right, where you can really determine on if it's run or pass, and that's where you see we get a lot of sacks based off of that with a lot of our transition pass rush stuff. And then we talk about it with the attack players. The attack players are shade, so they're going to leverage the outside shoulder of their visual key, and then our react players are going to split the difference, right? And so I always tell my guys, if it's a center guard and we're in a 2-eye, we don't play the true 2-eye where we're going to put our hand on the guard and read the guard. We're going to split the difference between the center and the guard, and I like doing that. And we play more react player situations than attack because I feel anytime we're in a shade, it's going to be hard to fight that reach block of that visual key if he's coming and reaching you, right? And so I like to play the gap, right? When we have a gap, we're going to play the gap. But even no matter what, for us, if we're attack or react player, we're always going to play a gap and a half, and so that's what we do. And I like splitting the difference there just to help those guys be able to control their gap a little bit more. When it comes to the stance, it's always about having a balanced athletic stance in our run fits where, we want to make sure we're able to change direction when, those blockers move. We got to be able to move with them and stay within our gap there, right? And so we always talk about having a balanced athletic stance when we're getting into it. And, I always have those guys start in a 2-point stance, inside foot toe to the heel of my outside foot. I'm going to go inside hand down, and my offhand is going to be tucked up underneath my chin, right? And so I always like making sure that when, we don't have our hand down on our knee, I don't have my hand just hanging on the ground, I want it up ready to go there, right? And so I always say about 60% of the weight on the front of my hand, and then 40% of that is back on my balls of my feet, getting ready to take that first step and then obviously get off the ball. And then we get into our get-offs and eyes, right? And so your visual key is always going to be your inside man shade, right? And so it doesn't matter 2-eye, 3 or 5 or 6-eye, we're always going to read the inside man. And I'm a firm believer of that too, because, we want to squeeze off the vertical run game, right? And so when your visual key is coming, inside out on you, then you can squeeze inside out, right? But if you're attacking the guy that's going away from you, then obviously you're going to start to expand with him, and then that's going to start opening up seams inside, right? And so I'm always a firm believer of going inside hand down in the run game there. And so eyes plus instincts equal reaction time, right? And so those are the things we kind of talked about earlier with drill work is, you train those eyes within your drill work. We do a lot of block recognitions. I do a lot of get-offs where guys got to see and react and do the things that they need to do there. And we always key the shoulder, knee, or foot, just wherever you can see better, and then we react off the movement or block that they're giving us there. Steps, I'm a firm believer in just getting our steps in the ground, right? And so I always say short and choppy with these steps, but there's 2 6-inch steps. And on that second step is when we should be making contact through it, right? And so I make sure that our first step is short and on the ground, right? And that first step is called our react step, where we're going to take that step and then we're going to obviously react off of what the old lineman has given us. And then our second step is our mirror step, right? And so if it's a base block, that second step is going to follow. If it's a reach block, then boom, we're gonna match that reach. So it's about getting those steps to the ground, and then we talk about on contact. When I make contact, I should be in the same position before I get my stance right there. Like the 2-point 6-inch athletic position stance that we talked about. I should be in that position, striking and being in position to obviously have my feet and hips underneath me. Hands. This is the big thing. I think from high school to college is just consistently using your hands, right? I always tell my guys, your hands are weapons, right? And so this is the thing that we work every single day, right? Lockout. Once you get lockout, you get control, right? And so some of the coaching points, we talk about tied hands, right? Elbows in, right? Striking with their thumbs up. And so, some things I say, act like you got handcuffs on, go touch your thumbs, do whatever you have to do where it keeps your hands tight, where, a lot of times people always want to kind of wind up and when you do that, your hands obviously naturally go wide, right? And so it's about just showing those guys how to keep their hands tight and strike violently. And when we strike, I always say we're going to strike with the palms of our hands. So when I go, bam, we're going to use that violent strike of our palm to kind of help with some of the pressure coming into me. And then once we feel the pressure of our punch, our hips should be coming with it, right? And so I always say pop and drop your hips and then squeeze your ass cheeks, right? And so if your ass cheeks are squeezing and your hands are coming through, you're going to have a violent strike on contact there. And then lastly is the flex and grab, right? And so when I always watch our hand progression, it could be we're on our knees and strike with our hands and our hips all the way up to when we come out of our stance. I always say I should see your hand striking, I should see your ass cheek squeezing, and I should see your triceps flexing, right? And so it's always coming through and doing that. And then I also got in here finger koozies, right? So when we strike the visual key, I want to control that whole man, right? Because if I can control him, that means I got control of my gap. And if I got control of my gap, now I can decide where that ball carrier goes, and I can force him to come to me. Or if he decides to cut back, now I have control where I can snatch myself back into the opposite gap there. But the finger koozies are the shoulder pads. Your fingers should go in there, and they should keep it nice and cozy in there, right? And so we strike, we get our fingers in there, control that breastplate. And then that obviously allows us now to get into our last point here as far as disengage, right? And so we always say feel pressure, fight pressure, and then with that pressure, we use a snatch disengage to come off blocks, right? And so we teach two types of disengages. Rip disengage is when the ball carrier is coming to me, or the ball carrier is downhill at me. And so we teach striking, right? Get control, and then rip vertical. And when we're ripping through there, right, I should be snatching that guy to my opposite hip, and I should be ripping through to the sky there, right? And so this is more inside zone, inside run, where the ball is downhill, right? If that ball is going more to the perimeter, then this is where we're going to use our hook, right? And so we strike, we get control. Once that ball bounces, now I'm going to bring that hook, and I, Bud Crawford was a guy that grew up in my neighborhood, and so I talk a lot about him and as a boxer and throwing hooks and stuff like that. And so we talk about keeping it tight and being violent with that. And so when we throw that thing, my hips and feet should turn. So now I can go attack that running back that's on the perimeter and take a proper angle to that ball. And so we talked about this, O-line will pressure you away from the ball, right? So if it's an inside zone, they're going to try to pressure us out. So we need to pressure back into where that pressure is coming from. And then, once we feel that pressure, we fight that pressure, and then we use the snatch, disengage to clear ourselves. And then we're going to finish through with the disengage. And when I disengage, I should be stepping with the same foot, right? And so when I snatch, I pull with my opposite foot, and then I step through with the same hand, same foot of wherever that disengage is coming through. So now I can go clear myself and get myself going in the direction I need to go to. When it comes to our pass stuff, it's the same kind of progression, but there's different details now, right? And so, we talk about intra-angle alignment, rush plan, and then, our stance or our pre-snap stuff there, and then our post-snap, same kind of deal here. It's our get-offs and eyes, steps, hands, and hips. And again, these are the coaching points, right, when we get in the meetings. So when we are talking about things on film, our guys are understanding like, hey, I need to work on my steps today in the pass game because I'm not gaining much ground, or my hands, I'm allowing O-lineman to punch me, I'm not using my hands. And so those are the things that they're easy coaching points of like, go to the progression and tell me what you're working on, so guys can have an idea of what they need to improve on going into tomorrow's practice. Our intra-angle, this is where, I know some people have been following me on Twitter and stuff like that, but this is where it all starts here is, a good pass rusher has a plan, and that plan starts with your intra-angle, right? And so when it comes to our guys, I base our fundamentals kind of within our scheme, right? So when we go for instance, our pass front, we call it jet. When we call jet, there's these fundamentals are already built within our system, right? So our DNs know like, hey, we're working speed rush, speed intra angles. Our D tackles know we're working power intra angles or cross power intra angles. And so they understand the fundamentals that go within our scheme already, right? And so this is a system that allows us to have success because, our guys aren't thinking about what move they're got to be doing or nothing like that. Everything is already kind of built within our fundamentals. So when they hear jet, our DNs know, hey, we're speed rushing, we're attacking our intra angles. our D tackles know, like, hey, we're power edging, we're attacking those B gaps, and so they understand right away what the primary move is, and then obviously when the offensive lineman gives us a different look than what we want, then we have a response for that, right? And so we are able to work those fundamentals consistently, and it carry overs into our scheme, you know what I mean? And so that's huge, right? And so our speed entry angle here for our DNs is 4 yards, right, from the line of scrimmage. And, you know, that aiming point is going to be 2 yards behind the offensive tackle's outside foot, right? And so that is the path that I'm attacking. I'm lined up. I'm at a 45-degree angle. My body and hips, my feet should all be pointed directly to that entry angle point. And so I'm getting off the ball, and I'm going to go beat that guy to that point. And that's going to allow me now to go attack that edge. Our power entry angle for our D tackles is going to be 2 yards from the line of scrimmage to the guard's outside foot, right? And so I should be same thing, tilted 45 degrees, toe, hips, shoulder, inside hand should all be pointed now to the edge of that old lineman, his outside foot. And then our cross power is where, you know, our nose is typically going to be in a 2-eye there, where now we're going to switch his hand, where in the run game his inside hand's always down. Well, now in the pass game here, we're going to put his guard hand down here, and he's going to work to that B gap there, right? And so he knows it's going to be probably about at 1 yard from the line of scrimmage, just because of we're crossing that O-lineman's face there, and the contact's going to happen a little bit faster. And then we're going to go try to attack that outside pit of that guard's B gap there. And then, you know, obviously for our DN, he's speed, but I showed here that, you know, really the two entry angles that our DNs are going to use are going to be a speed or power. And then our D tackles, we're going to use power or cross power, right? And so those are the things that kind of fit within our scheme here. And I'll probably talk a little bit more on it later, but, you know, is what this allows us to do is it allows our DNs to get to the top of the rush, keep contained, and force that quarterback to step up. And then for my D tackles, we're trying to push the pocket, specifically the B gap first, and eliminate where that quarterback can escape from. And so now it allows him to only escape to one place, and that's in the A gaps. And so as we get to the top of our rush, we will all start to counter kind of back into those inside gaps. And so the pocket just collapsed right on top of that guy. And so you'll see in a lot of our pass rushes is, you know, it turns into a speed to power, and we're just disengaging and making plays, right? Or our D tackles are just kind of pushing to the 3 yard top of the rush there, and then winning, right? And so with each entry angle, we put the rush plan together for our guys, right? So there's going to be a primary move, there's going to be a counter move, and then there's going to be a change-up move, right? And so for every speed, power, and cross entry angle, our guys know what that 1, 2, 3 is, right? And so we keep it consistent across the board. You know, obviously you'll adjust it a little bit, kind of what we talked about earlier, where maybe there's a guy that's a little bit more faster and athletic, or there's a guy that's a little bit more power full. So, you know, we're going to adjust his ability to some of those calls, but for the most part, the same foundation and system is going to be taught to everybody so they can understand and learn how the scheme and fundamentals match together, and how it's going to allow us all now to rush together. You know, here's kind of the rush plan stuff that we talked about here, right? And so our guys know, as far as when we're speed rushing, we're attacking, we're trying to get to that edge right now, and we're trying to win, right? Because if you can beat the old lineman to that edge, now you dictate his pass sets, right? Where he is initially trying to protect inside, he's going to try to use his depth to cut our entry angle off. But once we beat him, now he's going to have to start kicking with width and try to cover us up a little bit more there, right? Or to try to even overset us. And so once we beat him, now we force him to have to change his sets, and then that's where now our counter moves come into play there, right? Where we go speed to power. And when we do that, we're going to work to the inside pit, right? And so when we get that guy to start setting a little bit more with width, now the inside gap is going to open up for us. And so that's when we go speed to power. And I like a power rush move here instead of a finesse two-step inside move, because, you know, if you give your guys, if you tell them, hey, we're going to go counter here, guys are just going to start going inside all day long, right? And so what we teach is really speed, getting to the top of the rush. And if that guy is getting to the intra angle point before us, and we just turn it into a power rush move. And so that allows us to keep contained at the top of the rush, but it also allows us not to collapse the pocket, right? And so when you go speed to power, that tackle is going to be probably 3 to 4 yards already deep. So when you're getting a DN going full speed for 3 yards, and then he turns it into a power rush move, he's able now to just make contact on that old lineman, and now we only have to push him maybe a yard or two to where that quarterback is sitting in the pocket too. So that speed to power is a move that I really love. And then our changeup off of that is speed to jab, right? So we're going to sell that speed, and then as I jab at him, he's thinking, hey, this guy's going to come power rush me again. So we get him to kind of set his feet, punch, and then as he's punching, we're changing the angle, and then we're going to jab step and get back on the edge there. And then for our inside guys, or DNs as well too, like, our primary power is going to be our power edge, right? And so this is going to be a tighter intra angle to 2 yards, outside foot, and we're going to go attack, and we're going to bull rush that outside pit where we're going to punch, and we're going to try to open it up, right? And I like, when we talk about bull rushing, it's not about just pushing down the middle, because that's what linemen want to do. They want you to come into them so they can drop their hips, anchor, and sit. Well, when we bull rush, it doesn't matter if we're attacking the edge or if we're attacking the inside. When we strike, it's kind of like a jab step. When I strike, I'm trying to change that angle, right? And so when I punch, we get him to set, and we now pressure to a side. And then what that does is now that old lineman just can't drop his hips and sink. He has to start moving his feet with us, right? And so when I strike with that power rush move, boom, we're going to an edge rush. And now that allows me to attack it and get onto an edge right away. Once that guy starts oversetting us, we'll go into our two-step counter now, right? And so as I take that first step, boom, we see that old lineman's really jump setting us now, trying to stop that power. We get that second step in the ground. I like working a double swipe anytime we're going inside. So if I miss with my first one, I can bring another one, right? And we just try to keep active hands and just keep working as we work through the top of that rush there. And then the change up on that is a jab edge, right? Where, we beat him inside. Boom, I go step to that inside pit. He starts to protect back inside, and then we get back out on an edge again. And then our last one is kind of our cross power, and this is, again, our three techs can do this as well, where we're going to intra-angle more to the inside foot of that guard and attack. But this is a lot of times for our nose on the back side, where he's going to be working and attacking that outside pit of that guard. So we're going to work power opposite there, where now he's going to work across that guard's face, try to get to the B gap and attack that B gap. And then our counter now is power pop, right? And so this is a move that I really like, and we do a lot of it even out of our power rush moves, is when we're going to attack that edge. If I'm attacking that edge and that old lineman's really sitting on us and pressuring us, and he's not letting us get the edge opening, well, that means he's really working lateral, and he's really pressuring to our outside pit. And so we use the pop technique, or in our run game, we call it a snatch, where we pressure. Well, then we're going to use that pressure, snatch to our hip, and throw ourselves back into the opposite gap there, right? And so when we work power, boom, I'm popping myself back into the opposite gap of where I started. And so it's a counter move for us, where we do a lot of this stuff, where what we're really trying to do with our power rush move is get to our 3-yard point at the top of the rush there as a nose. So it allows that quarterback to have to step up a gap. He can't get through that B gap now. So once he steps up, now I can snatch myself or pop myself back in to that A gap, and I use my pressure and power to do that. And then obviously the change up with that is the jab, right? Where I go and I attack, he sets, he sits, and then I change the angle, and then work our jab stuff there. Our stance, right? And so this is where now, once they hear the pass calls, hey, their mind's switching now, right? They know, hey, we got to get our intra angle. This is the intra angle we're doing. We have different calls too, where like, hey, we have speed rush intra angle calls, we have power intra angle calls, right? And so it dictates of what we trying to do that week or that series, and so we can dictate the change up ourselves as coaches, right? And so that's where we have a system that allows that, right? And so when we give these calls now, though, they know, hey, my stance is going to change. I'm not going to be very balanced anymore. I'm going to be more into my sprinter stance here, right? And so we still go inside foot, 6 to 12 inches behind the outside foot. Inside hand is directly underneath my chin, right? I want that chin kind of right where my hand is, and so I got a little bit more forward lean. My head is got a little bit more tilt in there. And then my offhand is cocked in my hip pocket now, right? I like it there because when I come out of my stance, I can really explode with my inside hand and throw that outside hand together, so we can kind of drive and get out of that stance once we get out of there, right? And so 70% of your weight should be on your outside foot, right? And I always say it's like a spring. You get that thing ready to go, and then boom, you're going to push off that outside foot. That inside knee should drive, outside hand should come with it, and it should allow you now to really get off the ball there. Get off here. I mean, this is key, man. The best pass rushers in the world, in the NFL and college, they know how to get off the ball, right? And so this is the thing that we work every single day. We, like I said, there's cadence, there's movements, and it's just trying to get the guys to understand, hey, when I see movement, I got to go, because if you can win the first step, you're going to give yourself a really good chance to get a sack, right? And so great get off disrupts the fundamentals of your opponent, gives you the advantage, right? And so if you're able to beat the O-lineman out of your stance, with the first step, he's got to abandon his fundamentals now, right? He's going to have to turn his shoulders. He's going to have to, get to his point faster, right, where he's not in a really good position to attack, right? And so when you're able to win with that first step, you give yourself the advantage every single time in the pass rush. Triple G, this is the thing that we always talk about once we get off the ball is we got to gain green grass, right? And so the thing with the pass rush is we're using our alignment to create space, but now once the play is going on, post snap, we have to close that distance as fast as we can, right? And so we talk about it, gain green grass, close the distance between you and the O-lineman as fast as you can, right? It's a race to your integral point. And then, we talk about the contact point. So for my DNs, by my third step, I should be making contact with that offensive lineman, right? And if I'm not, then that tells me either one, my inter-angle is too far up the field, or two, my alignment is too wide, right? And so those are things where we tell our guys all the time is you got to find your sweet point as a player, as far as how wide your inter-angle going to be and how deep are you getting, because by that third step, we should be to the fight and ready to go. And then for our D tackles, it should be happening on our second step there, right? And so that's where, when we're taking that second step, I always say kind of throw that outside hand and hip with you, right? So when I go 1, 2, boom, I can punch and really try to attack that edge initially on the second step for that D tackle. Hands, we always say position, reaction, and violence. This is the thing of it is. And so when we work drills all the time, our pre-practice drills, I always make sure you better get your hands up, ready to fight, man. If you got your hands down, you're going to get your ass whipped, right? And so get your hands up, get ready to fight, because if you're in position there, now we can go and attack, we can go strike, we can go swipe, we can go chop, we can do whatever we want from that aspect of it, because my hands are ready to go, right? And then it becomes reaction now. We got to react to set, we got to react to the punch. We teach these type of things as far as, what type of puncher the O-lineman is. It dictates what type of moves we're working, right? So week to week, they can change. But, with low hands, we like to chop club those guys, right? Those guys are punching from their hips. As they bring their hands up to punch, we want to chop those hands down, right? If they're high hands where their hands are just sitting here at the chest as they punch, boom, we're going to double swipe those. And then obviously if a guy is just sitting there just trying to stab with his outside hand or inside hand, or he's not punching at all, then we're going to run right through that dude's face, because he has nothing to anchor in. So we're going to go speed to power, or we're just going to run through his face from a bull rush standpoint there. But, kind of like we talked about in the run game, your hands are weapons, right? And so when you use them, I don't care if you're working a move or you're bull rushing. When we strike, we want to be fucking violent, right? And then lastly here, it's hips, right? And so I always say GTQ, get to the quarterback, right? So when we get to the top of the rush, we got to make sure our hips are pointed back towards the quarterback, right? And so we talk about it all the time. It starts with your toe. You get your toe turned, then your knee's going to turn with it, your hips are going to come, and then your shoulder comes, right? And so the hips are the part that I always try to make the emphasis, because when you look at it on film, wherever your hips are pointed is the direction you're going to go, right? You going up the field, your hips are going to go that way, right? And so we emphasize a lot of times in some of the drill work stuff of how to turn at the top of the rush here is really trying to force the toe then the knee, and then the hips and shoulders come, right? So at the top of the rush, man, you got to really work your bend. Your hips got to be low. You got to be able to fight pressure back into the O lineman that's pressuring you, and then you got to obviously work and turn the corner there. And then, I always talk about too with hip turn as well. As I turn, right, my shoulders come with it. Well, now I'm reducing surface area, right? So when he's coming to punch and I'm turning, boom, my surface area is getting shorter there, and then at the same time, boom, my hips are turning towards the quarterback there. So that's where we emphasize a lot of that hip turn at the top of the rush there. And here's the top of the rush and the pass lane stuff that I was just talking about here. But, our base rules and fundamentals of each rush is where our guys know what the responsibilities are, right? And so when it comes to our pass rush stuff, our DNs know, hey, we're outside contained players, right? And so with our inch angle, we're at 4 yards. And then at the top of the rush is at 5, right? So when we make contact at 4 yards, we should be turning that corner right away, right? And I do not want to get washed past that 5-yard mark, right? So once I get to that point, I got to bend and turn and get to where I want, because if I start to get washed past the 5-yard mark, now that B gap is going to start to expand, right? And then if that's going to happen, the quarterback's going to step up in that B gap and he's going to be gone, right? And then, for our D tackles, we talk about working B to A, right? Obviously, why we work B first is so we can press the pocket to that 3-yard mark. And once we get to that 3-yard mark, now we're able to counter ourselves back into the A gap there. But you can see here pre-snap, we always talk about the bubbles as far as like, hey, if a quarterback's feeling pressure, where are the 2 places he's going to step up here, right? And you can see, right, the first one's going to be the B gap there in yellow, and then the second one is the A gap, right? But a lot of times you don't see too many quarterbacks that like to step directly up to that A gap because there's a lot of pressure that's coming into his face there. So when quarterbacks get pressure, the first thing they try to do is escape through the B gap so that they can get out of the side of the pocket, right? They don't like stepping up and running, right? Some quarterbacks do that, but most quarterbacks want to try to escape through the B gap and then try to either extend the play or get out of the pocket, right? And so we really focus on working B to A for those D tackles initially to take away that. And then as that quarterback steps up A because he has nowhere else to go, we will start to counter our rush at the top of that rush. And now the pocket is eliminated altogether. Yeah, and then we talk about this, understanding the O-lineman sets, right? There's really 3 of them that we focus on. Is vertical set is what we get a lot of now because, with our intra angles, if teams start to angle set us and jump set us and try to really get out on top of us, then we just go into our games and then we'll punish teams with games, because when you want to set out to us, then now you're just giving us those inside moves all day long. And so that's where our 2-step counters are still coming to play. But it's getting these guys to understand, hey, when we're going through our speed rush stuff, hey, when I get a vertical set, hey, we should be attacking and winning. Once that guy starts to overset us, or at a 45 angle, now that allows me to go speed to power, right? And then same with the overset. If he's going to jump set and overset us, bam, we should turn that speed rush right into a power rush move. I'm power rushing, then I'm 2-step counter, right? And so it allows us to teach those guys to know, like, hey, we are speed until this happens. We are power until this happens. And then when they see it, now they know how to react to it, right? And so it's really coaching every detail to that. I also, I'm a firm believer in block recognition from a run standpoint, where we work all the time. Like, maybe today we're only focused on inside zone, so it's base right, base left, and just getting our eyes and hands and feet working together. And then, next day is maybe reach, outside zone, and then it's, gap scheme. Well, then as you start to teach those fundamentals and guys start to learn it, then you start putting everything together, right? It's the same thing here. Is we're going to teach vertical set, how we're going to attack it. We're going to teach angle set, how we're going to attack it. Overset, how we're going to attack it. And so as you put all those pieces together, now you start to become, reactionary within your drills. And so you start to see those guys, hey, I'm getting overset, bam, I'm coming inside. I see the vertical set, I'm staying on my edge. And so it allows those guys to start seeing how the fundamental piece and the scheme come together. And then you get those reps, right, where you're limited reps in practice. So the more you can make that realistic in drill work, the better they're going to get at doing some of that stuff. And then understanding, O-line's punches is important, right? And so we talked about it kind of with how we're going to attack those high punchers, low punchers. But this is a week-to-week thing, right? Obviously in high school, you're probably not getting as much of the fundamental piece of what, O linemen consistently do. But when you get into college, it's a game plan each week of how are we going to attack this O lineman, right? And if I'm trying to chop club a high puncher, that's not really realistic. You know what I mean? Because I'm going to be trying to chop down. If I miss the hands, then my chest is obviously going to be open there, right? Or if he's a low puncher, and I've seen this happen, the guy's punching low and I'm trying to swipe high and I miss, well, then boom, he's able to get his hands on me. So it's important. I think part of the game plan is to break the O lineman down and see what type of sets are they. What are they? Vertical setters? Are they angle setters? Are they over setters? Like what are their sets? What type of punch are they consistently use? And then even the aiming points, right? Are they tight to the chest punch? Are they wide, punchers or grabbers? Are they low to the belly, right? I mean, you got to understand what type of O lineman you're going up against consistently, but this is all built in too, right? Where you teach those principles and progressions. And so when you get week to week, now these guys know, like, hey, this is the things that we're looking at, and then now we know how to attack it. Then obviously understanding protections, right? I mean, there's a lot of different things that you can get. A lot of it RPO play action stuff is a lot of times early downs, and we talk with that transition pass rush stuff is more for us. Is we're engaged like it's run, and then once we see it's pass, hey, we're coming off, and we're getting out of there, right? And then you're going to get big on big man protection. You're going to get half slide where you get center guard tackle sliding one way and man to the backside, and then you're going to get full slide, right, where you get everyone sliding one way, the running back picking up off the edge, and then for us we get a lot of max protection too, right, where we're getting teams to try to protect their quarterbacks, and for us we don't blitz much, right, and so that was the thing with last year we had 74 sacks. When we did our final breakdown over the course of the season, we were base 87% of the time. You know what I mean? So that's the part of like, hey, it's a system of us teaching fundamentals, them learning fundamentals, and then they learning the system and situations of how are we going to react when this happens, and that allows us to obviously dictate the game when our guys can react to what's going on out there. That's kind of my fundamental piece of how we teach run and pass. I can go through some film stuff if you like.
Yeah, Coach, absolutely, man. This has been great.
We'll start with some of the rest plan stuff here. That this is kind of just some cut up stuff that I put together just the other day here.
Okay.
Obviously, everybody always wants to know the pass rush stuff, so
yeah,
we'll get to some of this stuff. This carries over, I think, for everybody. So we're looking at the end here on the right.
Coach, you're gonna have to go.
Oh, I got to share it.
Yeah, the PowerPoint's still being shared.
Here we go.
There we go. Got it. All good now.
If we get this internet rolling here. But this DN on the right here, you can see obviously with his alignment there, he's tilted at that 45-degree angle, right? And so what we're telling him, right, is his inter angle, 4 yards from the line of scrimmage, about 2 yards. That's where he's going to go and attack. And so if an old lineman vertical sets, it should naturally put us right on the edge right away on that situation there. And this is where you see he wins with the speed. Just kind of working a long arm there. Internet's running a little slow here. Again, an inter angle here on the right. Speed inter angle. Really good get off here on this one. This is what we talk about, the first step. If you beat him, boom, look at that old lineman. He's panicking right away. He's got to open up, and he's turning right away where, boom, I mean, we don't even get touched there. He just runs directly behind that guy. And, again, it all starts with the get off there. He's able to get off the ball. You win with your first step. Now you dictate the rush there where old lineman's going to have to, abandon his fundamentals and now get into panic mode here. The DN here at the bottom of the screen, it's a really good little dip and rip is kind of the speed rush that I like to teach here. Maybe if it loads up here.
Technology coach, right?
Yeah, no, for sure. But here, you'll see he's got a really good entry angle that puts him right to an edge. And then as that old lineman goes to try to punch with his outside hand, he just kind of chops it down, dips and rips, and then works through the top of the rush here. Let me check the internet here. Those were good.
That might just be huddle, coach. It's we all have our issues with the platform.
No doubt. Let's see if we get some other ones in here. So here's a really good one here. The 23 national championship here. Jalen Pettis here on the right. Again, another great get off here. Beats that tackle off the ball here. It would just kind of dip and rip through the top of that rush there. Boom. Again, for our DNs, this is the important part, right? If you're able to attack, you're able to win on that edge, right? It now puts a lot of pressure on the offense because you're allowed to attack that quarterback and get into his face there, and now he starts to panic because he has nowhere to escape outside the pocket, so he has to step up. And so as that starts to happen, that opens up a lot more stuff for our DNs, as we get going. There's Caleb Lubin. He's one of the top edge rushers in the country right now at Louisville. I think they got him projected like top 25, draft pick. But he was an All-American for us. Just really top, dipping, ripping, bending, and coming off the edge there. This against Kilgore in the national semifinal game. So our progression off of that, we go speed, and then we go into our speed to power stuff now. And so check the D in here to the left. He's going to get up the field here. I think we got to highlight him. But he sells that speed up the field. Look at the old lineman. He sets vertically. He opens his shoulders. And so now hey, we're going to turn this into a power rush move. Bam. We go attack, get right into that quarterback's lap there, finish inside. End up getting a strip sack there. Watch our DN on the left here. Blake Hawkins, he led all JUCO last year. I think he had like 14 sacks. He went to Iowa State. Really good speed to power for him. I mean, he had a lot of sacks off of this year. I think a lot of these cut-ups maybe of him. But again, you see how he sells that speed up the field. That old lineman sets wide, covers his entry angle up. So now he knows, hey, I got to turn this into power. He strikes, punches through, and then he finishes with our rip disengage. Well, again, I always say our bull rush stuff just turns into our run game there. And that's what he does there. He opens up the shoulder and rips through. There's another clip of Clev Lubin here on the left. really good speed. But again, look at the O-lineman, right? We've beat him to the edge. Now look at him. He's just like, shoot, I'm going to try to jump out here and take away the edge. Well, once that O-lineman turns that shoulders like that, it's a wrap. We're gonna beat him every rep of the day right there. Really good physical inside hand here on that power rush. Boom. Opens him up, finishes through there. And again, part of the whole system of it is just teaching the fundamentals in the scheme together, right? Making their rush plan for them, making their moves for them. So now, they know, what they have to do once that play is called, right? And here's our DN on the right here, Walt Gray. I mean, he was a kid. I think he was a 2-time All-American for us, went to Coastal. But, I mean, he was maybe 210 pounds his first freshman year here. And look at him, speed, boom, power. And he ends up getting a strip sack here off of that, And he's going that tackle. I forget where he ended up going, but that dude was one of the top tackles in JUCO, and he had a 210-pound guy that was allowed to work speed to power at the top of the rush. Let me take this. There's a lot of these. But so here you're not able to see our D on the right here. He's working speed to power. Our D end on the left here, I think he just works straight power. Nope, he's working speed. But again, you can see here for him at the top of the rush here, look at where his hips are. His hips turn. Let me try to turn this off here. For some reason, none of this stuff is working on huddle. His hips are up the field right there. So you see he gets washed by here, right? Our DN on the right, he feels his depth at the top of his rush here. Now he's turning into a power rush move. But look at where it puts him, right? You can see the two difference of why the hips matter at the top of the rush here, where our DN to the right collapses the pocket. Our DN on the left here gets washed by. And for the DN on the right, allows him to get another sack here in the national championship game. We had 9 of them in the this game, and that was the part I told our guys, once you smell blood in the water, let's take advantage of it. And then what we teach off of that, you go speed to power, and then here's our kind of speed to jab here. Dean on the left here, he's the one working the speed jab. And, you attack, you get that old lineman the set, and then with that jab step, you get him the kind of set and punches, sets his feet and punches here. We'll get there sometime.
It's trying, Coach. It's trying.
Yeah. You can see right here, he sells that speed for his first couple steps. And then he steps hard at him right there. Boom, jab. What he makes it look like he's going to go power. So then he gets that old lineman to kind of set his feet, punches, and then we just change the angle, right? I'd like to see a move with it, but that guy was pretty athletic where he kind of just dipped and ripped off his jab step there.
Coach, here I'll ask you one more question, because I know the internet's not whatever, huddle's not cooperating with you, which is all good, because we could always come back and do another one with a bunch of film. But last one for me is favorite defensive lineman of all time.
Ooh, that's a good one. I mean, me personally, just because he recently played, but it's Aaron Donald. You know what I mean? I mean, just for the aspect of the way he was able to take the game over. You know what I mean? And those are the things. Is you see some guys that are really good pass rushers and some guys that can, do a lot of good things. But for him, run or pass, I mean, he was the deciding factor when it came to that. And I know there's talks of him maybe coming back now too. But I would love it. I mean, he still looks like he could play some snaps. But I mean, he just and Reggie White, he was a little bit older, but I always growing up we used to watch watch him and for a guy that big D tackle out on the edge and be able to, move the way he could, those are things that, I like the John Randall was another one of mine too, growing up, the interior one, that just those relentless dudes that, you can't block, and so those are three guys for sure that, from a couple different eras.
That was one that Kevin Mawai brought up in our podcast was Randall. He said Randall was just as, like you just said, like being relentless. And like, obviously I grew up in New Jersey. So even though he wasn't a D lineman per se, but Lawrence Taylor, I mean.
Oh, yeah, 100%.
He's
the ultimate guy of edge rushers that, he defined what
changed the game.
Edge rusher is, what I mean? And that's where you look at all the players now across the country. I mean, that's what everybody wants their outside edge rushers to be.
For a guy like Bill Walsh to have to develop an offensive system to get the ball out so you don't hit their quarterback, that's pretty good.
No, 100%.
But Coach, listen, I appreciate you taking the time, man. This has been great. I definitely want to get back on and just do maybe, so first of all, A, tell coaches where they can find you. B, talk about the clinic you guys got coming up. I think that's going to be awesome.
Yeah. So, I mean, you can obviously, follow me on Twitter. It's Coach Aaron Terry. I also have the D-Line U pass rush page on there too. And so we have a huge clinic coming up in July 10th. It's a 2-day deal where, I do a pass rush summit where, we bring back all our, former players or most of them that are in the NFL Power Forward. We have, I think, 10 guys at the Power 4 level right now. We have, I think, 6 D linemen in the NFL. And so we try to bring as many guys back, and it's a great thing for our guys here at Iowa Western because we'll be here obviously for the summer. But we open it up to high school kids, college kids, or whoever. My nephew is a D lineman down at Nebraska, and so he'll come with a few guys, and it's just a really cool event, and so this year I wanted to add the coaches clinic onto it. So that Friday night will be the coaches clinic, and then Saturday will be the pass rush summit, and so it's awesome event. Hopefully if you can make it, come. There's going to be we got 4 great speakers. I'm included in one of those, so I'm pretty average on that, but I think it's going to be an awesome turnout of guys coming back, and I think there'll be a lot of learning opportunities for players and coaches.
That's awesome, Coach. Listen, I appreciate it. And obviously, I'm going to, I'm probably going to release the episode next week, so I'll make sure I put all that stuff in the, in the bio for the episode. But definitely, I'll share that. But I appreciate you taking the time. I learned so much, and I'm going to try to get my D-line coach there for this. He's a younger kid, and I think he'd really be benefit from learning as all of us would, right?
Yeah, 100%. That's the thing. I always, I'm always about trying to give back and learn myself. And, there's always the young guys, man, that's trying to help them out as much as they can too, because, that's the part of this game of life is you can never know enough, right? And so it's just trying to learn and expand and try to figure out better ways to do it.
Yes, sir. No, Coach, listen, I appreciate it. I want you to enjoy your weekend, and then we'll be talking because I definitely want to get some more details about the clinic.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate you, man.
Thanks, Coach.
All right, take care.
Yeah.